Good day, everyone. I am Erica Marie Bunyal Historia from BSed English 3A, and today we are going to walk through the essential blueprint for any successful investigation. And here's the steps in conducting research. Whether you're working on a school project, a professional report, or just satisfying your own curiosity, following these steps ensures that your work is thorough and credible. But before we proceed, let's have first our learning objectives. By the end of this presentation, you will be able to A. Define what research is, B. Identify the first 4 steps of the research process, and C. Understand the importance of each step in a research study. So what is research? We have 3 definitions here. First is a systematic investigation to discover new knowledge. Second, a structured process of gathering and analyzing information. And the last one is the goal is to find answers to specific questions or problems. At its core, it's a systematic investigation to discover new knowledge. Think of it as a structured process where we use scientific methods to find answers to specific questions. It is not just about looking things up, but it's about gathering, analyzing, and interpreting information in a structured way. So what is its goal? So the ultimate goal of research is much bigger than just getting a grade or completing an assignment. It's about contributing to a body of knowledge and, in many cases, influencing society and diverse fields. So let us always remember that every discovery, big or small, it helps us build on what we already know. Let me present to you the 8 steps in conducting research. First step, define research problem. Second, review of literature. Third, formulate hypothesis. Fourth, preparing the research design. Fifth, data collection. Sixth, data analysis. Seventh, interpretation and report writing. Eighth, draw conclusions. However, I will be only presenting the first, second, third, and fourth step because Ms. Chari Estrada will be continuing the report. In conducting research, first we have define a research problem. So this is the first and most important step. Define the research problem. This is your starting point. To identify a problem or question, this means that this is where you identify an issue or area of interest that needs further investigation. Next is to delimit the problem. Narrow down the broad topic into specific, manageable research questions that can be answered within the scope of your study. So you begin by identifying a broad area of interest and then you narrow it down into a specific, manageable research question. And a good research problem is clear, specific, and can actually be answered within the scope of your study. Once you have your question, you move on to reviewing the literature. So this is the second step. This is where you explore existing knowledge on your topic. So here we have explore existing knowledge. Conduct an extensive review of previous studies, articles, and books related to your research and to understand what is already known. And here we have to identify gaps. So this helps to build a theoretical framework, identify research gaps, and ensure that your study adds to existing body of knowledge. By reading previous studies, books, and articles, you build a theoretical foundation, and most importantly, you identify a gap in the knowledge. And you want to make sure your research adds something new to the conversation. With that gap identified, you can now formulate hypotheses. So this is to define the independent and dependent variables and formulate a clear, specific, testable, and falsifiable prediction about the relationship. So the statement should be concise and logical, often expressed in if-then statement to provide a testable explanation for a phenomenon. Hypothesis is a clear, specific, and testable prediction about the relationship between 2 variables. As I mentioned earlier, it is often phrased as an if-then statement and gives your research a clear direction to follow. Finally, we arrive at research design. So this is the blueprint for your entire study. So here you decide on the appropriate approach if your research is qualitative or quantitative, and you also plan your data collection methods. If are you going to use surveys, interviews, or observations? You are essentially creating a roadmap for how your project will unfold. So in summary, every great research project begins with a simple, structured process. By taking the time to define your problem, review the literature, formulate a hypothesis, and design your study, you lay a solid foundation for a successful and insightful project. Now, to measure your understanding, I will ask you two questions. First, think about a problem you've noticed in your own life, at school, or in the community. Based on what we've discussed, how would you begin to approach that problem using the first four steps of the research process? Second question, we talked about the importance of reviewing existing literature. What do you think might happen to a research project if a researcher skipped this step entirely? That would be all, and thank you for listening. Again, this is Erica Marie Bunyal Historia from BSed English 3A.